Well, welcome everyone. So great to see so many faces here tonight for this celebration, this joyous occasion, our second graduation, the second cohort of our Leadership Center for Social Justice, supported by the Lilly Endowment. We continue to be grateful to the Lilly Foundation for their support to enable us to run this wonderful program. I am Dr. Kyle Roberts. I'm the academic dean here at United. Our president, Molly Marshall, would be here, but she is traveling, and I believe I saw that she might be watching or listening in and enjoying this occasion as well. But just want to say welcome to all of you from all of us at United, and we are so grateful for everything that you all have done as students in this program, as pastors in this program, and those of you who have supported them, and family members, loved ones, and others on this journey. Welcome. I will pray, and then I will turn it over to Dr. Rye Sigelko. God of grace, God of many names, we thank you for this wonderful occasion of joy, celebration, of completion. We thank you for the many gifts and all the love and grace and passion that is represented in these graduates, in their projects, and the work that they've done over this 9 months together, the ways that they have grown together as a community, as a cohort, and as individuals and leaders in their communities, in their faith communities, in their churches, in their networks, in the many different ways that they lead and have an impact on the people around them. Thank you for what this moment represents. We know that it will bring fruit for justice, for peace in the days, months, and years to come. Amen.
Good evening, friends. Buenas noches. First of all, let's congratulate our pastors. It's so lovely to have this room full of you all, full of people from all over the place. I know many of you have traveled a long way to be here, to support loved ones, to support friends and colleagues. And I think especially the pastors who traveled from afar to be present here for this evening. And all of you online, welcome. Jacqueline, welcome. I want to say up front that I speak to you this evening, perhaps in a little different register. Not so much, perhaps tonight, as a director, but more as a fellow seeker, a fellow traveler, a minister, a pastor. I speak this evening as one who, like many of you here, has sought to live and minister faithfully with every fiber of my being. And as one who has sought to respond, however falteringly, good luck with that, Ned, to a particular call from the living God, the creator of life, this one who is known by many, many names and who speaks in many, many tongues and has spoken, continues to speak throughout the ages. I speak to you this evening as one who is currently carrying a mix of deep joy and deep sadness. I am full of joy because seeing all of you is an incredible gift of grace. You all are so full of life and love. And spending the last 9 months with you has been among the greatest gifts of my ministry. I'm so grateful to you for your commitment, your passion, and care. And it has been a unique privilege to accompany you as you have engaged in the work of deep theological reflection on your ministries for social justice. I am deeply grateful to every one of you for the time you have taken. And all of the teachers here, I think I speak for them all to express our gratitude for the time that you have taken, for the time you've set aside for learning, for listening, discerning, and praying, and for reimagining how you might act and take leadership in the ministerial and holy work of justice. Take a moment to look around you. These are friends. Some of these friends have traveled great distances to be here. Some of you live around here. But as we look at one another, as we connect with one another, let us not underestimate the power we have right in this room. In our relationships, there is strength and power. You see, it's not easy to respond to a call. It's not easy to seek and act for the sake of the transformation of the world. And so it's always best to do this work in the company of others. Indeed, as we've stressed throughout our class, our relationships to one another are the beating heart of ministry for social justice. It is our relationships that give us strength in challenging times, and boy, are these challenging times. Sometimes we grow weary. Sometimes opposing forces and powers seek to shut us up and shut us down. These powers and forces tell us lies. They seek to confuse us, to separate us, misdirect our energies. They seek ultimately to tear us apart. And in these challenging times of weariness, it can be difficult to keep up the faith, to keep running the race that has been set before us. When we are feeling weary, we must learn how to reach out to others to help carry the burden, to lift us up, to carry us forward. And tonight, friends, I need to confess that I feel weary, very weary. Yesterday, my dear friends, people whom I have pastored for the past 4.5 years, were torn from their home by agents of the state. They committed no crime, but they were criminalized. All they did was move. And they were punished for it. My dear friends who just yesterday were sending their children off to another day of school are now sleeping on the streets of one of the most beautiful and most dangerous cities in the world. They've lost everything except for the love between them and the love that others have for them from afar. And while that love is very, very strong, sometimes the opposition seems relentless. What power is there in love? How might it turn hearts of stone into hearts of flesh? I was reminded as I was preparing for this, the power of music. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. This is the song that was sung in a jailhouse in Mississippi in 1964 by the young members of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, or SNCC, one of the most powerful movements for social justice this world has ever seen. What power is it, Vincent Harding once asked, that would move people to sing a song like this in a jailhouse? How do you sing in a jailhouse, in prison? How do we keep singing when we are weary, beaten down by the death-dealing powers of our world? How do we stay human in the face of the forces of inhumanity? How do we keep our eyes on the prize? As ministers, how do we cultivate in ourselves and in one another deep wisdom, gentle love, and fierce, courageous determination? This is a challenging moment in history. And for those of us who seek to minister in the overdeveloped world, we have a great responsibility to act with urgency and dedication, to address concretely within our contexts the many interlocking crises that face our increasingly imperiled planet. We must struggle where we are. For our commitment to justice needs to be more than merely a set of abstract ideas or confessional statements. The where and the when of our ministries matter. And perhaps most importantly, as Pastor Kelly has taught me, it matters the question of with whom, the co-creation of ministry. It's not easy to know how to act against injustice, not to mention how to lead others to act. But we do have lights if we stop and look around. We can look in the back, and if you haven't had a chance to look through our marvelous exhibits, please take time. These are lights. These lights lead us along the path toward justice. They help us bring clarity to our leadership for social justice. The truth is, many of us often fail to act out of fear. Sometimes these fears are very real. Sometimes they are very much of our own making. They're internal. But there's no getting around the fact that becoming ministers of social change means taking risks without guarantees, moving beyond, sometimes through that fear. And such work often does involve conflict and tension with power structures. These are sometimes visible and oftentimes invisible. These are the structures that uphold the status quo. And this is one of the reasons why we need each other. We can help each other discern the path forward. And it's why you all need each other in this work. This class for all of you has entailed the work of deep reflection about how to join with the transformative possibilities for life emergent in your context of ministry. It has involved the work of discerning the spirit of life in the midst of your congregation and your community, and making some concrete commitments to act and to build something. While some of you have already begun to implement your projects, for many of you, this is just the beginning of the journey. Know that I will be praying for you, and that all of us here will be cheering you on as you complete what you've committed to do. And know too that in the coming months, we will be following up with you to check in, to see how things are going. Don't be strangers. Right, Stella? And when doubt and fear and weariness and opposition that produces that weariness sets in, when you start to wonder, I don't know, is it really going to work? Is it even worth it? When you run out of steam in the face of opposition, remember to reach out to one another for support and encouragement. Our relationships are what sustain us. May we have the strength to love one another, the strength to listen to one another and build each other up. May we have the courage to act for the sake of this world's transformation. Congratulations, friends. Thank you.
Good evening. Nedwick Moore, he, him, his teaching fellow, Leadership Center for Social Justice. As Ryan mentioned, it's a time of celebration. It's a time of congratulations. But reinforcing the acknowledgement, these are times of incredible evil, violence, and oppression for our communities, siblings, and loved ones. And in the midst of all that, it's easy to miss the blessings. So Amy and I are giving some blessings. It's easy to miss the blessings because injustice is not theoretical. It's not academic. It hurts real people in real places, in these times. Therefore, God's blessings cannot be sentimental or this like romantic ideal. They are also for real people in real places in this time. So to be clear, we must not ignore injustice in order to receive God's blessings. I think God is closest in the moments that God seems the farthest away. When injustice is most present, God is also most present. So we must pay attention to both. Bearing witness to God's blessings is a real test of our faith. Faith that today is not the end of the story. Today is not a last goodbye. Today is hello. Today is see you later. And tomorrow we continue the journey and the struggle together. So in sharing these blessings, I'll be taking some inspiration from the wisdom of some great thinkers and leaders like Adrienne Marie Brown, Malik Holt Shabazz, Lila Watson and her community, San Romero de las Americas, Pueblos de Lucha y Esperanza, along with some of my own thoughts. When facing injustice, may you share in the blessing of our collective salvation. When facing the demonic speed of transaction, may you experience the blessing of velocity towards trust and transformation. When facing time wasted trying to help others, may you share in the blessing of liberation bound together with one another. When facing a lack of answers, may you share in the blessing of asking good questions. When facing fake perfection, shallow performance, may you experience the blessings of practice, the blessing of presence, the blessing of permanence. When facing mediocre greatness, may you share in the blessing of God's ambitious greatness. When facing the temptations of profane compliance, may you share in the blessing of sacred rebellion. The blessing of sacred rebellion. When we face struggle, may we share in the blessing of hope. When we face struggle, may we share in the blessing of hope. When we face struggle, may we share in the blessing of hope. Blessings. Amen.
Good evening. My name's Amy Finnegan, teaching fellow, she, her, hers. My blessings are short and sweet. Or hope they're sweet. I had the opportunity as a teaching fellow to engage in this community on two themes, on radical imagination and on conflict. So my blessings are related to those two, and one extra for good measure. May we regularly open ourselves and our communities to the possibilities of envisioning, of imagining that not only is another world possible, but what is it we long to become? In lieu of competing, avoiding, terminating, resolving, may we engage in conflict generatively. And may we be hope that we seek in the world in our struggles for liberation, even when we are swimming in fear, doubt, and overwhelming uncertainties. And to that last one, a friend this week shared with me a line from Nigerian author Chinua Achebe, which really spoke to me around this idea of the uncertainties, but why we still are called to face them with hope and to be that hope. So I'll leave you with these words by Achebe. This is the importance of struggle. No one is going to guarantee us the outcome. Nobody's going to say, if you struggle, you will succeed. It would be too simple. But even if we are not sure how it is going to end, what success will attend our enterprise, we still have this obligation to struggle. Blessings and thank you. Gratitude. Hello.
I'm Taylor Greer, and I'm here from Seattle. It's good to be in Minnesota. I have relatives that are here, and actually, there have been several times growing up that people would ask me, I think in college, people asked me, "Are you from Minnesota?" And I was like, "That's funny, you should ask." I did come to Minnesota when I was 2, and maybe my speech pattern was being very developed during that time. So I sound Minnesotan, and I'm glad to be here from Seattle. I got connected to the program. You might be wondering, what's a person from Seattle doing here in Minnesota? I got connected to the program because I connected with Stella after a webinar that the center hosted last year. And we had a Seattle connection. And it might have been that Seattle connection that sparked me being interested in connecting with here. And because of Stella's connection to the timeline and her having my email address, she was able to remind me of the timeline. So I actually submitted my application the morning of my sister's wedding. I was like, we were getting ready for her wedding, and I was like, I'm gonna do this. So I registered. So and the rest is history. But I wanted to share that just for a little bit of context for myself, but also to ask you all if you've had moments of synchronicity like that, where something that you didn't know could become something else slowly became that thing. Or maybe you were hoping you would get to somewhere and you saw some steps and saw how it came together. I see nods. That sounds familiar. I really marvel at that sort of experience, and I really sense God's work in that way. I know how to make a plan pretty well and to deliver. I have a poster board back there that I put together in Melissa's kitchen table this afternoon to prove that I can put stuff together. But God orchestrates things in a way that I'm not able to do. So I'm grateful for the way that this program lined up with things that I was learning and needed to learn in my new role at Bethany Community Church, and things that have been just coming together, which contributed to my theme for my project, which is weaving things together, not wanting to have things be isolated from each other, but seeing how they're connected. And so now my story is connected here, and I hope that the ways that even as you engage with our projects, there's some connections that will happen and continue to grow. Yeah, I'm grateful for the way that the framework that Rai alluded to, no, he didn't allude to it, he said it specifically, but the framework for the program set the foundation for me, the idea of moving through sensing and discerning, committing and building. Each of those stages really was a gentle guide for me as I approached my daily work I would have been doing anyway at church, but had a specific framework to be thinking about, paying attention to the sensations of the moment, but also thinking scope toward future. So like holding the present moment and action toward the big collaborative picture of God's work in the world. I'm grateful for our instructors who are up here at the front and for the way that you all shared from your experiences and your passion and your strengths and the way that you invested in us. I'm grateful for my cohort mates over here, knowing that as we reflected on class content, we were also experiencing life changes, job changes. There were clicks that came as far as like things that you were pursuing in your context or things that you needed to have new strength or ideas or encouragement around. And so for us to be able to experience that together with curiosity and care is really meaningful. And then finally, I'm grateful for this public opportunity to be able to reflect on things from the class. Could be easy for me to put my notebook on the shelf and be like, that was a meaningful moment, but not open the notebook and spend time with it. But I needed to open that notebook so I could reflect for now. And I'm speaking these words out loud, which helps them to sink in. And then if anybody felt so bold, you could hold me accountable to the things that I say because I'm saying them publicly. So thanks for being witnesses as I share this reflection. In my church tradition, we're super familiar with the 3-part sermon, and there's like extra creativity sort of accolades if those 3 words are alliterations. And without meaning to, that's what I've done right now. When I was thinking about how to share about my experience, it came out in a series of 3: learn, love, and lean. Learn, love, and lean. These being postures that I want to take into my work, ways that I'm synthesizing what we've learned together. And I'm thinking of learn being a posture of my head and my intellect and my engagement. Love being a posture of my heart, my relationship with others, with myself, with others, with God. And lean being a whole self posture, that it's not enough for me to bring my head or even for me to bring my heart and my sentiment and connections, but it really is like leaning in with my whole self. And as I went through my notes, I had something from all of you to put in all of these sections. So thank you for contributing to all of that. I just want to pick a couple things before I close. But when I think about learning, a big part was actually the migration story that we were invited to do early in our time. I was thinking about the migration story as I was on the plane from Seattle to Minneapolis, which is ironic because, well, you all know this the Mississippi River is not a new idea. So I'm not saying something new, but the Mississippi River runs from Minnesota and then down through Mississippi, Louisiana, maybe between those two. And that's where my family is from Minnesota and from the Mississippi, Louisiana area. So as I was thinking about my migration story, I felt like there was a connection of place. So the idea that migration story isn't like a history that happened for people that came before me, but something that is about the place where I am and things that have been formational to me, and how that sort of head posture and being aware of that and knowing that all of us have migration stories, it's a different approach to the work that we do together, and leads me to wonder, which Gerald led us in, wondering about others rather than wanting to answer questions in a particular way, wanting to be guided by wonder. When I think about love and the heart posture, the biggest piece that really stood out to me, I don't remember at what point we were talking about this, but the idea of bridging and belonging, like in places where there's been brokenness, what does it look like to be a bridge, to build bridges, and not just bridges so that we can get stuff done, but bridges so that people know that we all belong. A belonging that isn't defined by what I think I know about you, or a belonging that's not defined by feeling like I have an in-group against an out-group, but what does belonging look like in a larger sense? And working towards that really is the work of justice, that it's me in an in-group being aware of what that in-group is so that I can break through those walls, or me in different places, the way that I'm making assumptions about others, able to move past that so that there can be healing and reconnection. And then finally, lean, the whole self posture, thinking about conflict and thinking about risk, which Ned shared about with us, that leaning in doesn't mean that it's going to be comfortable, but it's not something to be afraid of, that there's ways of it being generative. As my closing, in September, Deb and Don gave us words for us to be thinking about through the duration of our time, and my word was courage. And I've kept a sheet that I was writing down over the following months, different ideas of what courage is and what it looks like. And I was reading it on my way over today. And over the past 9 months, I've seen that courage is the bringing together of strength, vulnerability, hope, trust, and compassion. And that it's the building of emotional and mental muscle to grow into uncomfortable situations. In essence, that leaning in takes courage. And it's something that includes strength and vulnerability, hope, trust, and compassion. So as all of us go from this place, whether you've done the cohort or whether you are here supporting someone, or if you've done it before, or in the future, hey, plug, I hear that you can still do it for free next year, right? Am I right? I'm right. Great. But regardless of where we are, my hope for us and my blessing for us is that we may all be strengthened, encouraged to take the next step toward ways that we can learn, love, and lean together, knowing that God is weaving it all together. Thank you.
Uju gagageashi kindishnakas gawaba beginnikagaluchaba. Mainganindudame. My name is Everlasting Wind, and I'm from White Earth Reservation, and my clan is Wolf Clan. My English name is Don Goodwin, and if you don't know where White Earth is, it's 4.5 hours from here, north. Yeah, north and west. My uncle said, go north and west, just keep going north and west. So always remembered that. So we made it 9 months of class. It flew by. And I'm actually so honored to actually be part of this. Honored to get to know you all. And I hope this is just the beginning of our relationship. I hope that you all stay in contact through this. Our last lesson was about commitment. And I was reflecting on that, how you have all committed to this class and to your work and helping people. And I've been thinking about how at times I would describe life as I felt like I was in a washing machine on agitate. Just like, oh no, stop it, stop, oh, now it's time to spin out. And now life, like we've talked about, life has really become challenging. I'm sure your challenges have changed as you reflect on. Now, I describe life as being on that fair ride, the spider or the octopus, the black one that's like you're spinning and you're going down and you're going round and yeah. So imagine at times you're going to feel that and you're going to wish to go back to the agitation on the washing machine. You can't. Your commitment has brought you to another level of helping people. And I just want you to all remember what we've talked about and what we've making sure you take that self time and stepping out of your comfort zone. And I've seen our students already taking that step, stepping out of their comfort zones, pushing themselves forward. And so that's what I want to leave you all with. Yes, times are going to be hard, times are going to be difficult, but just remember that day by day, trusting in the one above, our creator. And putting your heart and your love into those who you want to help. Miigwech. Uju. Dinaway Maganug, hello, my relatives. It is so good to see your smiling faces. You have come a long way in these 9 months, and I hope you've learned something, right? Um, social justice. Wow. It's everywhere. It's driving down the road, going the speed limit, and somebody else is not. It's cutting in line. It's everything. It's everywhere. How do you, where, what? How do you even begin to discern what? And where do you want to come in on this? Do you want to just sit back, look, see what's going on, take it all in? You know, and you all have done that. You all have watched and sat back, and I have seen you all take that step forward. Right? You are moving out of your comfort zone. It's incredible to know that we are a family and the experiences that we hold and the mountains that we can move. So keep up the good work. I'm honored to know you all. Miigwech.
So the deaf can see, make sure that she's in the frame. She's in the next frame. Awesome. Yeah. I don't think we need to see me. No, I'm just voicing. Hello, first one. Good evening, everyone. My name is Debbie Bookwitz. I'm from Kansas City, and I'm happy to be here tonight. And I see my children on the Zoom watching me. Thank you. I love you. Okay, first of all, I want to thank United Seminary of the Twin Cities and Dr. Rye. Where is Dr. Rye and Stella? And all of this is amazing, amazing cohort, amazing teachers, fabulous teachers in this year that taught us for the last 9 months. My cohort, my friends, all of them, they do amazing things. They do amazing things. I can't believe I am so honored to know each of you. And I cannot forget my family, my husband, Al, my son, Levi, and my daughter back at home, Abigail. For they sacrificed and they made so much for me that I could be a part of this program for the last 9 months. And when I told my husband that it's time to book the hotel because my last class is online and it's over, and he said, "Are you sure? Are you done? Are you like done, like done for school for the rest of your life?" I said, "Yes." When I completed all my studies for my Master's of Divinity, I realized quickly that I still did not have enough education to do any kind of counseling as a preacher. And fortunately, there are a lot of people who suffer in relationships, addictions, depression, anxiety, religious trauma, and varying disorders who seek counseling from their pastor. So I went back to school and received a master's in counseling. I think it is very beneficial for a pastor to receive a master in counseling. Then, when I completed my doctorate a few years ago, I realized that I needed to learn more about the correct ways to engage in social justice and issues that would bring about positive progress. Because you know what? Burning bridges, it is not the way to go. It won't succeed. So I enroll here at the United Theological Seminary of the Twin Cities, and we are now certified. And I think it's beneficial for a pastor or any ministry leader to receive a certificate in social justice. Because if we really want people to know the true gospel message, every human is created equally in God's image, and every human is loved by God just the way they are. And every human has a right to attend the church in the denomination of their choice and be married and serve in their church, then we as pastors and ministry leaders have a lot of work to do. And being certified in social justice is going to help us move in the right direction. My passion for social justice was woven into my DNA as I grew in my mother's womb. My mother's deaf womb. My father was deaf too. Only 13% of deafness is hereditary. And in my father's family, deafness is hereditary. I am hard of hearing, and I carry the gene. So I have deaf parents, children, aunts, uncles, deaf cousins, and so on and so on. I am currently co-founder and director of Deaf International, where we work with deaf refugees, immigrants, and asylum seekers in many, many ways, including helping them attain their citizenship, employment, and independence. I also pastor a deaf church and have been a pastor for 31 years. I pastor a standalone deaf church, but I am working on a redesign that allows for inclusivity and progress. This redesign was created and written during my dissertation years, and now I am putting it into fruition. Thank you. Statistics say that assimilation of families of immigrants begins in the second and third generation. But in a deaf family, since 97% of deaf people give birth to hearing children, assimilation begins right away with their hearing children. So we are not identifying ourselves as a standalone deaf church anymore, but as a church. We are working on building our church to include hearing people. Next, we decided to leave the space of being non-denominational and affiliating with United Church of Christ so we could create a safe place for inclusivity. And about a year ago, we declared ourselves as open and affirming. And that is when we lost 3/4 of our congregation, along with 3/4 of our financial support. Well, now we are poor and inclusive. With this redesign, we are trying to create a body of Christ that is on an equal platform. No segregation, no telling people with wheelchairs that they must sit in the back so their wheelchair will not be in the way. No telling the deaf that they must sit in the front right side where the interpreter will be standing down off the stage. And no more telling people they are welcome but cannot serve because they are who they are. One body, no segregation, and no more groups of people being sent to the basement, Sunday school room, or fellowship hall to worship on their own. One body, one Christ. When more hearing people began to attend, I planned to preach in American Sign Language, with a voice interpreter one Sunday, and then preach in English with an American Sign Language interpreter the next Sunday. I will go back and forth between each language. We have already begun a worship dance team that meets the visual needs of the congregation, and we are looking for a worship director that can sing and play an instrument that will meet the auditory needs of the congregation. And last but not least, we'll also create a council board that is comprised of half deaf people and the other half being hearing members. And within this body of the deaf and hearing, there will be diversity in every form. My deaf father passed away at the age of 96, and he died believing that God was for hearing people. You and I know that my father isn't the only one to die believing that they were a child of a lesser God. In John 10:16, it says, I have other sheep that do not belong to this fold. I must bring them also, and they will listen to my voice. So there will be one flock and one shepherd. This verse isn't just about the Jews and the Gentiles. I believe it's about going out in the world with Christ's light and love and bringing back all of those sheep the church pushed out, excluded, and traumatized. One body, one shepherd. I would love for all of you to be praying for our redesign as I will be praying for all of you. Amen. Amen. Thank you.
Whoa. So this is what we got to, our teachers, we were able to spend time with these incredible folks, Taylor and Debbie. And honestly, there are so many other amazing ministers here. I wish they could all speak, which is why I'm going to point you again to the back. I mean, it's remarkable work that everyone is doing. And it is such a privilege to be celebrating all of this. It's such a privilege to have the opportunity to work with you all doing such amazing work. I'm so inspired. We're all so inspired by you, and we learn from you. So thank you so much for sharing. Okay. We're coming to the end. We're going to do a presentation now of certificates, like a real graduation. And then the good reverends will send us off after that. So we need some space to walk up, or maybe how can we do this? Maybe just walk up front here. You want to hand them out? Why don't you stand up and hand them out with me? I'll read the names. We got this. Oh, the good Reverend Penny Bonso. I'm a professional certificate giver. The Reverend Dr. Debbie Buchholz. The Reverend AJ Galasson. These are pretty. The Reverend Melissa Melnick Gonzalez. Oh man, I'm gonna miss you all. Mimi Goodwin. Congratulations. Taylor Greer. So this one, we're going to have to look up on the screen. Those of you in the room and those of you on Zoom can see her. Zooming in. I believe it's in the middle of the night. Jacqueline Morgan. Hickox Morgan.
It's 3 o'clock in the morning here.
It's 3 o'clock in the morning.
In
Where,
Amsterdam.
and where are you? Are you in the Netherlands?
Yes, I'm in Amsterdam.
In Amsterdam.
Yes.
I'm still there, still partying in Amsterdam.
Oh, many people are, I'm sure.
Congratulations, Jacqueline, and we will be sure to mail this to you.
Thank you.
Grace Kolacek. The Reverend Frenchie McGee. The Reverend Charles Camille Owens. The Reverend Galen Penner. The Reverend Laura Smidzik. Yeah. And last but not least, Estela Villagran Manancero. Let's give our graduates another round of applause.
I'm Yerelo Sorto, he, him pronouns, and it's been an honor to walk alongside each of you throughout this year. At the beginning of our time, we talked about faith, and that is about the depths of trust required to sustain action towards justice. And I commend to you the twin insights of two of my Christian forebears. In the 12th century, Bernard of Clairvaux wrote that we each must drink from our own wells. And 8 centuries later, Gustavo Gutierrez taught us the waters of liberation spring anew in these wells of intentional, active faith. And this year, you took time to pause, to listen to the deep waters flowing beneath the surface of everyday life, and you tended to your wells, maintaining their integrity. You slow down long enough to drink deeply of God's faithfulness, or from the earth's steadfastness too, or from the blessings of communities past and present. And so now we send you back to your communities of practice. Welcome the opportunity to be accountable to these traveling companions, to share with them what you have found, and to help them divine where they might dig their own wells, and journey with them so that faith might live in your actions. In my own community of accountability, we often turn to a prayer when its members are sent forth. As all honest faith must do, the prayer acknowledges uncertainty, ventures of which we cannot see the ending, paths as yet untrodden, perils unknown. At the brink of the unknown, my community calls out, give us faith to go out with good courage, not knowing where we go, but only that your hand, the divine hand that liberated enslaved folk, the hand that held children and broke bread, the hand that opens in invitation and blessing, only knowing that your hand is leading us and your love supporting us. As you go from this time toward justice, toward healing, toward the wide embrace of family you have yet to meet. May faith sustain and uphold you. May compassion shared between listening hearts awaken your stories. And may wonder reveal fresh questions and new possibilities. Go now, friends, to shape the future in the image of peace, love guiding you every step of the way. Amen.
Good evening, I'm Kelly Chapman, and it's been an honor to be with you these 9 months, to sit at table with you. I was thinking about much of it that has been shared this evening, and it reminded me, I grew up in Detroit, Michigan, and when I was a youth, I loved to play baseball, and I had a baseball glove that was very dear to me. And there was a boy who was bigger than me, and he was a bully. And he walked up to me and he said, "Give me your glove." And I cowered and I gave him my glove. And I realized at that moment that I didn't have the faith or the courage to stand up for what was mine. And my prayer for you and this benediction is that you will have the faith and the courage to stand up for what is yours, to stand up for others for what is theirs, a relationship with a God who loves everybody, a justice that is big enough to embrace everybody. So I leave you with this benediction from John R. Lewis. Do not get lost in a sea of despair. Be hopeful, be optimistic, never ever be afraid to make some noise and to get in good trouble, necessary trouble. God bless you and be with you.
Thanks, everybody, for attending this night's showcase and graduation. Thanks to those online, to our speakers. And I encourage you to stick around, have a drink. We have water and wine, and it is flowing, and lots more food. And we also have the showcases that if you haven't had a chance, because you've been so busy talking to one another, to take a look at them. Maybe take a picture as well to remember this time and to reflect. Before we leave this space, I would invite participants in the program to come to the front so we can take one big picture. If we can fit you all in, to come to that side. So we can get Jacqueline on Zoom. So we're going to take a photo. Okay? Thank you.